Something we often talk about on this channel is the fact that the core of every electric vehicle is the central component that allows it to exist, its large battery pack. For years, the earliest electric vehicles were hampered by short ranges and excessively slow charge times. In the ensuing years, the work and innovation from across the industry has made EVs into what they are today, true competitors in the automotive space. With that being said, this industry is still constantly changing and evolving with the times, and we are standing on the edge of another huge revolution in battery tech. Tesla and other battery makers are working tirelessly to create the next generation of batteries that offer better range and charging speeds for lower prices than ever. Today, we're going to discuss the current state of Tesla batteries, the industry's work on solid-state cells as a whole, and the future of long-range EVs, so let's get into it. To start, let's take a minute to discuss the shape of Tesla's current battery situation. The battery in each of their vehicles depends on which model you have, which trim, as well as when and where it was manufactured. When Tesla first came onto the scene, they made a pretty big design choice that set them apart from their competition. While other automakers were using proprietary large format cells for their cars, Tesla decided to construct their pack using widely available small format battery cells. Panasonic and other manufacturers already produced these cells in mass, and they were already tried and true, so they decided to use these cells in their cars. This move ended up paying off wildly with the first generation Roadster and then the Model S. The first generation Model S used Panasonic-designed 18650 small format cells with a nickel-based lithium-ion chemistry. This cell format was widely available, durable, and had great energy capacity compared to competitors, especially with the custom modifications made specifically for Tesla. This choice drew some jabs from critics who joked that the Model S ran on laptop batteries, which wasn't true, but in the end, Tesla's unconventional choice panned out well for them. This graph shows the size difference between the individual cells of a 2012 Model S and its competitors at the time. They're significantly smaller cells, but by using over 7,000 of them in a battery pack, they could store 85 kilowatt hours of power, compared to 24 and 16 kilowatt hours total for the Nissan Leaf and Chevy Volt, respectively. The current generation of Model S and X vehicles still use these same 18650 battery cells, although the chemistry and efficiency of those cells has improved in the intervening years. When Tesla brought out their more affordable Model 3, it seemed they were going to make that car with 18650 NCA battery cells, but this car ended up pivoting to their 2170 format instead, still using that same NCA chemistry. The biggest change to the Model 3 lineup in time was the introduction of LFP battery cells in their standard range trims. LFP cells, or lithium iron phosphate, have the benefit of being cheaper to manufacture, but with lower overall energy density. This battery cell was briefly offered in cars in the US, but as of now it's not available in this market, but it is globally. Tesla is nearing completion of a new LFP battery plant in Nevada, which will be the manufacturing hub for their internally made LFP cells in North America. These cells are currently earmarked for their stationary energy products, the MagBak and Powerwall, but perhaps we could see the reintroduction of other LFP vehicles in North America soon if this factory does incredibly well. When the Model Y released, it was built on the Model 3's platform, so it came with 2170 cells. But then they added one option for a short period of time, the 4680 cell. Tesla unveiled the design of their 4680 battery cell back in 2020 at their Battery Day event, with the intent of bringing them to the upcoming Model Y. These larger cells were designed to increase energy density, simplify the manufacturing process, and ultimately lower the cost. While those promises were huge, Tesla had a lot of trouble fulfilling them over the next few years. Production was slow out of Giga Texas, and their first attempts didn't meet their energy storage expectations. Tesla produced a run of standard range Model Y vehicles using these 4680 cells for a while, but that particular configuration was discontinued in 2023. Now, a second generation of 4680 cells appear in the Cybertruck with improved performance overall. Production of those cells has been growing over the years, and Tesla claims that it is now the lowest cost per kilowatt hour of any battery on the market, but at this point, it has yet to appear in any other vehicle. Like I mentioned a bit ago, EV batteries have improved tremendously since the earliest days of the technology. Current battery chemistries offer really great ranges, and charge times are lower than they have ever been. Still, there's a lot of room for improvement, and it seems that many consumers are waiting for those next big innovations before we see true mass EV adoption. EVs have a ton of benefits that make them really competitive with gas-powered vehicles, but they have the potential to surpass them across the board. We could soon be entering an era where the average EV can travel over 500 miles on a charge, and then charge up again in less time than it takes to get a tank of gas. With the upcoming innovations in battery technology, we could see EVs become much more convenient by every single metric. There are a lot of different battery technologies under development across the industry, but it seems like the holy grail of battery tech is the solid-state cell. Large solid-state batteries have been worked on for decades, and while it's one of those technologies that has perpetually been right around the corner, it seems like its current momentum could finally bring it over the finish line. We already use solid-state batteries in limited applications, but there were certain technological and manufacturing limitations that have kept them from widespread adoption. In order to discuss the implementation of solid-state batteries, though, we first need to discuss what they actually are. For context, current lithium-ion batteries of all sorts rely on a liquid electrolyte that allows for the passing of ions from the anode to the cathode. While there are a lot of different specific battery chemistries out there, all of the prominent batteries in use rely on this method. This can provide decent energy density, but the technology can likely only improve so much from here. In addition, that liquid electrolyte can be very volatile, and if the battery is punctured, it can be extremely flammable and dangerous. These batteries are overall very safe, but that risk is still there, albeit still less likely to catch fire than gas cars. As the name might suggest, solid-state batteries replace that flammable liquid electrolyte with a solid one instead. Right off the bat, that offers a huge increase in overall safety compared to current lithium-ion batteries. In addition, relying on a solid electrolyte can help to minimize the formation of lithium dendrites, which are, quote, needle-like structures that can form during charging and cause short circuits. EVs are already very safe vehicles, but making them even safer is always a great development, of course. One of the biggest benefits of solid-state battery technology is the massive potential increase in energy storage density, however. Increasing energy density means that you can store more power in the same volume, which for electric vehicles directly translates to more range. Lithium-ion batteries of today can reach energy densities of around 250 to 300 watt-hours per kilogram, while some solid-state batteries can achieve densities of closer to 400 to 500 watt-hours per kilogram. With even just a 50% increase in energy density, we could see EVs that have current ranges of around 300 miles jump up to as high as 450 miles on a single charge. Theoretical limits suggest that solid-state batteries could eventually even provide up to 10 times the amount of energy as current cells. Another benefit of increased energy density is that it could allow us to produce smaller and lighter vehicles, with fewer battery cells required to get the same range. By decreasing the number of cells required in a vehicle, that greatly reduces the overall cost of manufacturing, and therefore the cost to purchase. Fewer cells also decrease the overall weight of the vehicle, leading to further efficiency increases. Once solid-state cells drop considerably in price, this could be a major step on the path to EVs being widespread and truly affordable. In addition to better energy density, solid-state batteries can also charge considerably faster than traditional battery types. Some estimates say that solid-state batteries can charge fully in as little as 15 minutes, compared to upwards of 40 minutes for current EVs. Of course, there are some caveats to the charge time on current EVs. For one, all batteries are limited by their respective charging curves. The more full a battery gets, the slower it can charge. So charging from near 0 up to 50% will take significantly less time than the next 50% or even the last 10%. Here's the charging curve for the current Model Y. Notice how it spikes quickly and then rapidly tapers off as it gets closer and closer to 100%. Solid-state batteries would still be impacted by a charging curve, but their design can support higher currents, allowing for much quicker charges to higher ranges. So while 15 minutes is still a bit longer than the typical time spent at a pump, you would likely be charging up to ranges significantly higher than any equivalent ICE vehicle or current EV if it was a solid-state battery. Lastly, solid-state batteries are expected to have considerably longer lifespans than current battery cells. Current electric vehicle batteries have already proven themselves to be extremely long-lasting and durable, but at the end of the day, they aren't indestructible. Solid-state batteries will likely be able to sustain many more charge cycles before they begin to deteriorate. While lithium-ion batteries typically can last between 500 to 1,000 full charge cycles before major deterioration occurs, solid-state batteries can last for well over 1,000 before they lose any significant capacity. This is better for preserving the vehicle's range over its full lifetime, but also means that battery replacements will become even less common than they already are. Now, based off of that information, solid-state batteries sound like a miracle technology that should already be in every vehicle on the road. While there are still some technical limitations and holdups with the tech that researchers across the world are working on solving. To start, there are a few contenders for solid-state materials that can be broken down into a few different types. Oxide-based electrolytes are very stable and conductive, but their hardness makes them very brittle. Sulfide-based electrolytes are also very conductive, but they are very sensitive to temperature and humidity. Lastly, polymer-based electrolytes are very flexible and easy to process, but they are much less conductive than their other counterparts. As you can see, all of these different types have benefits, but also have big drawbacks that make them unsuitable for every application. Additionally, all of these materials are currently rare, expensive, and there are no standardized processes for making any of them at this point. Each route is being explored, but there are still problems to solve with each material before it can be widely adopted. Additionally, beyond the problems posed by each individual type of electrolyte, there are certain universal problems that apply to the technology across the board. As I mentioned, there are no pre-established processes for producing any of the materials used for these batteries, so manufacturing costs are very high and it will be difficult to scale. There are tons of really promising technologies out there that are interesting to read about, but if they're not scalable, then it doesn't do consumers or the industry much good. On top of those logistical problems, there are still plenty of fundamental chemistry and design problems that need addressing first. To start, getting consistent and stable connections between the solid electrolyte and the electrodes themselves has proven to be challenging. Solid electrolytes often have trouble maintaining a stable connection between the anode and cathode, which creates resistance in the flow of electrons. This is especially prominent while charging and discharging and can lead to some big drops in efficiency. Another area in which solid-state batteries are less efficient is in thermal management. One of the strengths of these batteries is their ability to withstand higher current, but their solid design makes it worse at dissipating heat. Since they have thermal conductivity problems, that makes it hard to manage heat in extreme temperatures or in high power usage conditions. Additionally, some of the electrolyte material options have proven to be extremely brittle. This makes their manufacturing, shipping, and installation processes more complicated as the products become delicate. Additionally, this makes them more susceptible to harsh driving conditions and road vibrations, which now pose a risk of forming cracks. These cracks can greatly reduce battery efficiency or cause outright battery failure if unaddressed. So while these batteries can technically be longer lasting than a traditional lithium-ion battery cell, their fragility is a problem that needs solving if we want to see them ever reach those high mileage levels. I also mentioned earlier that solid-state batteries greatly reduce the risk of lithium dendrites forming, which can cause short circuits. While that is true, the risk of them forming is still there, and the effects can still be harmful. If these needle-like structures form, that can cause the battery to short circuit or otherwise potentially even fail outright. The odds of that happening are minimal, but it is an ongoing problem that researchers are working on solving. As you've probably gathered from our discussions so far, solid-state batteries are an extremely promising technology that has thus far been held back by a litany of problems and complications. Still, if those problems can be overcome, then the potential upside is tremendous, which is why we have seen so many automakers commit to bringing solid-state batteries to the market. So far, we have seen a lot of word on upcoming vehicles, but none have actually reached the market just yet. Let's take a look at some of the many brands that are working on this technology, though. Back in 2023, Toyota announced their plans to bring their first vehicle powered by solid-state battery technology to market by as soon as 2027. Built in collaboration with a Japanese petroleum company, these batteries seek to solve some of the biggest problems with current generation EVs. They're aiming for this vehicle to have a range of up to 745 miles on a single charge, and for it to be fully charged in less than 10 minutes. Additionally, some speculate that this battery could last for up to 8,000 to 10,000 charge cycles across their entire lifetime, more than 5 times as many as current lithium-ion batteries. These batteries will use a sulfide electrolyte, which Toyota claims is a, quote, promising material to achieve high capacity and output for BEVs. Sulfide solid electrolytes are characterized by softness and adhesiveness to other materials, which is suitable for battery mass production. Last year, Honda opened up a test production line that allowed them to rapidly iterate on solid-state battery designs, with the hope of integrating them in products, quote, in the first half of the 2020s. That's a pretty broad target, especially considering we are now in the back half of the 2020s, but they are determined to bring them to market soon still. Honda has aspirations of integrating these batteries into far more than just cars, but across their whole lineup of mobility products. That includes motorcycles, and given the potential benefits of this technology, it could eventually be used to power aircraft. Current batteries offer too little power storage for their weight to be useful in most aircraft applications, so a product that greatly increases battery density is very appealing in that application. This test line takes up approximately 300,000 square feet of space in their Japanese R&D center, and it is tooled for rapid iteration and testing. Car and Driver says, quote, its ability to prototype new materials and processes on a mock assembly line will let it iterate on all those factors as quickly as possible, and, the company stressed, will help it produce solid-state cells that are cost competitive with existing alternatives. That will let it achieve economies of scale faster and deploy the cells across many more products more quickly. Being able to rapidly get a successful product up to scale is a huge part of their potential success, and Honda seems poised to potentially do it. Car manufacturers all across the world are also working on plans to integrate solid-state batteries into future vehicles in the coming years. The Chinese battery and automaker BYD announced that they are planning for their first solid-state batteries to begin rolling out in 2027. From there, they hope to have them ready for mass adoption by as soon as 2030. Like we see with many car companies, they plan to introduce this technology in their more expensive models first, and then roll it out to their cheaper models as the technology matures and becomes more economical. Now recently at BYD, there have been some rumors that they are working on a Seal EV with solid-state batteries. Rumors claim that they were testing this, and it was equipped with a solid-state battery which offered up to 1,200 miles of range, or 1,875 kilometers of range. Now that's likely a different testing cycle, but still, even when converting to EPA, it would be an incredible range if true. However, BYD responded to these claims, saying currently it is unknown and the first model and parameters are not officially reported. Other circulating rumors said it could have 400 watt-hours per kilograms of energy density, an ultra-fast charge delivering 932 miles in just 12 minutes. But BYD's CTO reaffirmed solid-state rollouts there, saying they have demonstration-scale vehicles starting around 2027 and mass production in 2030. So officially, according to BYD, they are not working on solid-state batteries for their Seal electric vehicle. Then we have QuantumScape. QuantumScape is an American battery maker, and they plan to produce solid-state batteries for VW. They're working on a method that involves the electrolyte being made out of thin ceramic pieces, and this still has the flexibility and brittleness problems. However, they claim that they've created a process which overcomes those issues. They hope to have this in VW cars as soon as 2026. 2026 is coming up pretty rapidly, so I would love to see that and see which market they can ship that in. It doesn't seem like something that would come to the US anytime soon, given VW's presence for EVs here, but we'll have to see. Then we have CATL. CATL is the world's largest battery manufacturer, and they are heavily invested into solid-state batteries for the future. They have started a trial production phase for solid-state prototypes using a sulfide design. Quote, the company's solution has an energy density of up to 500 watt-hours per kilogram for lithium ternary batteries, 40% more than current batteries. However, the report said charging speed and cycle life are not quite where they need to be. Even if they haven't fully ironed out all of these problems, it could still be a big improvement over current cells in terms of overall energy density, so we'll see what happens there. Another Chinese company, Huawei, recently filed a patent for a sulfide-based all-solid-state EV battery. And the crazy thing about this particular patent is it claimed it could deliver up to 3,000 kilometers or 1,800 miles of driving range with full charge in, again, just 5 minutes. Even if you cut that in half, saying this is an exaggerated testing cycle, 900 miles is incredible. According to the patent, this battery density could reach 400 to 500 watt-hours per kilogram. But so far, experts in Korea are saying that this could be conceivable in lab conditions, but translating them to mass production is far more complex and would likely not occur here. So a patent here can grant protective rights for this concept, but it's not actually a proof of performance, so there's no validation that they've actually achieved this in the real world. However, it shows just how incredible the claims of solid-state batteries are getting. So if we can get something even half as good as what people are thinking could be possible, we're in for a bright future. It also seems that other companies that are well established, like LG Energy, Samsung SDI, and SK On, aren't too worried about Huawei's claims here, so it seems that it may not yet be a game changer. Now, one thing that's very interesting is to look at a list of the top 10 solid-state companies out there. It's tough to really rank top companies at this point, since none have brought something to market, especially not at scale, but it has a lot of companies you'd expect. First is CATL, then we have BYD, LG Chem, and Panasonic. All big players right now that make standard lithium-ion batteries. Then we have QuantumScape, who will be working with VW, as well as Solid Power. Solid Power specifically outlines 3 different batteries: a silicon EV cell that can get 390 watt-hours per kilogram and can do over 1,000 cycles. Then they have a lithium metal battery with 440 watt-hours per kilogram that can also do over 1,000 cycles, and a conversion reaction cell that gets an even higher density at 560 watt-hours per kilogram. This company, Solid Power, is working with many companies like Ford, BMW, and Volta for future products. Next, we have Welon, Xingtao, Ampsera, and Proligium. So there are a lot of people working on this technology, many startups, and then many big battery companies that are scaled up on normal lithium-ion batteries today, but looking into the future. As for auto brands, though, Nissan has specifically said that they are working on a game-changing solid-state battery. They're progressing on their plans for solid-state batteries, which they plan to have in cars as early as 2029. And actually, recently they said that they were ahead of schedule for this to launch in 2028. They say that their cells can boost energy by about 30%. Over at Hyundai, they've pushed back their goals because they originally have been talking about solid-state batteries, but now say they won't be ready until at least 2030 because there's, quote, a lot of uncertainty. Then there's a company, Factorio, working on solid-state batteries, but actually working on quasi-solid-state batteries that aren't really the full fruition of this technology, but kind of a first implementation of it. And they're looking to have this in Stellantis vehicles by as early as 2026. Stellantis isn't planning to have customer vehicles in 2026, but full drivable demos by that point. And another company that's also working with Factorial is Mercedes. They plan to have a car with Factorial's quasi-solid-state battery on the road by 2026. And this could be a very interesting in-between because it's aimed to get about 621 miles of range. That's already an incredible range, but of course it's not that over 1,000 miles of range that people have been talking about that solid-state batteries can achieve. So perhaps before we get all these insane range numbers from solid-state batteries when they come to full fruition and are completely optimized, we might see these quasi-solid-state batteries that are taking some things from current technology and from future technology to give us an improvement to range. A 621-mile range is going to be plenty, but it will be interesting to see if 10 to 20 years from now, that may be more on the low end of what ranges you can get in your EV. There's really no telling exactly when these products will actually come to market, since solid-state batteries have been promised for so long. We've heard these latest deadlines, but prior to these were deadlines that have already passed. They got pushed back to these dates. So I'm not too hopeful that 2027 will actually be seeing these come to market, but I would love to be proven wrong. It does seem, though, that more and more companies are claiming this is possible, and they claim that it's something that could come soon, so I hope it does come true. However, it could be one of those things where you have all these companies claiming that they're working on this, so then others jump into the fold to also work on it. It's something kind of like what we're seeing in the AI space. There are some big players in the AI space, but then we see a million different names talking about their AI integrations and how they're expanding there. And it seems that every other week we get a new headline about how one company has surpassed the other and how they're going to reach a certain destination very quickly here. At this point, every company feels pressured to include or mention AI in their products, even if they're not truly as integrated or advanced as others. We definitely saw this recently with Apple, who started marketing their products with AI well before that technology was really ready to truly be integrated into their products. They've been releasing AI features in waves, and then we'll likely see the bigger stuff come in waves as well. So when these solid-state products do arrive, it will probably follow the same trajectory, arriving in waves. First, we're going to see expensive luxury vehicles with very long ranges. We'll probably see a $150,000 to $200,000 EV with an 800-mile range, using solid-state batteries in a few years. Then that will eventually trickle down to simpler and more affordable cars. It will likely be a combination of long-range cars and small, cheaper vehicles that don't require many cells to go a reasonable distance. At the same time, however, we also need to see a huge growth in chargers that can actually handle fast charging these batteries at the speeds that they demand. BYD unveiled their 1,000 kilowatt charger that can charge a vehicle in just 5 minutes, twice as powerful as the strongest chargers in the US. So this actually would require a lot of infrastructure to really achieve those speeds, and it will require massive investment to bring chargers and the surrounding grid up to snuff to handle this. Tesla has not actually publicly talked about solid-state batteries, but we can be almost certain that they have definitely looked into them, and at this point decided against them since they're so focused on scale all the time. There is a certain push and pull with the ethos of Tesla's design. They want to be on the cutting edge of vehicle design, but they also don't want to adopt technology that they can't effectively scale at a reasonable cost. Widely scaling products is their MO, and what has enabled their success. So we know that they're working on dry cathodes for their own battery manufacturing at their Giga Texas plant. That offers some benefits, but of course it doesn't offer as many benefits as a fully realized solid-state battery. However, it's much more feasible in the short term. Then when it comes to Tesla as well, they're betting big on autonomy right now. So maybe they aren't really worried about solid-state batteries because they believe that long range won't really matter as much when you can just call a robotaxi for almost all of your trips. For the longer trips, maybe you won't mind taking a little charge stop in your robotaxi, or maybe you won't mind switching to a different robotaxi that's already fully charged for you. Still, they have a team of dedicated battery researchers who are surely keeping up with the latest developments of this tech. Maybe they're working on something behind the scenes or with a partner company that they will unveil when or if it is ready. However, this is one of those technologies that I would not be surprised if we see come from a competitor first. We'll probably see that very expensive car like I talked about, and people will say, well, that's not exciting because it's not affordable. But that's how technology goes. When it first gets released and it's brand new and a cool technology and exciting, it's very expensive. But in time, that cost is able to come down. We do expect the same to happen here with solid-state batteries, but we have to see the first run of them in consumer products. As always, the future for EVs is very bright. There is a lot coming down the pipeline here for current battery technology, as well as future battery technologies like these solid-state batteries. I'll be sure to keep you posted on all those updates on this channel, so make sure you're subscribed to stay up to date there. And in the meantime, if you want to see a full breakdown of the new technology that could be coming to EVs as far as what you're seeing in the car and possibly smart glasses, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.